Mr. Hanna,
Mr. Evans.
do you have the details of the mission prepared before we start recording?
I do.
Okay, so how about you tell me what was James Bond's assignment before we start?
In this mission, Bond is trying to stop a newspaper tycoon who's causing wars between countries for ratings.
And this is Tomorrow Never Dies. And we are recording. I am your agent, Jeremy Evans, along with my other agent, the most well-known agent, the voice, Travis Hanna. But that's not all. We got another agent that's joining us. He happened to finish his assignment and decided to come in and, sit here and talk about some information about James Bond. For people that don't know, this is a James Bond podcast, all about James Bond. We're going through James Bond. If you haven't heard the Sean Connerys and the Roger Moore, they're out right now. Definitely check them out. But Curtis Sism, how are you?
Good. Definitely in new territory here.
Right. What do they know? What do they know you for?
The in-game podcast contributions and our big show, the Gaming Hall of Rivalries.
Yes. And what's that about?
Jeremy and I gratefully took the last year to look at two game characters that were comparable to each other and kind of talked about them in depth, history, background, and maybe the future of those characters.
And Travis, you should be interested because in our final episode, we talked about the biggest rival between Sephiroth and Kifka.
Oh, that is a good rivalry.
Yeah.
I mean, not as big as Cloud and Link, but whatever.
Inside joke. But no, we talked about, we just basically talked about how they influence each other.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was a really interesting because there was some stuff I didn't know about. Like when he brought up Sephiroth, there was some stuff I didn't know about. And when I did my research for Kika, that was interesting about that kind of stuff. And you find out, like, just a fun fact, we think Kifka and Sephiroth are the ones that set that path where all villains from Future-wise don't have to be set in armor all the time to be bad guys. It's all about, like, their personalities. Because some of these villains you see, they're not very heavy armored or anything like that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. But we're going to talk about Bond, and we're going to be talking about Tomorrow Never Dies. This is the second off of Pierce Brosnan. If you haven't heard our GoldenEye, I recommend listening to that one. That was a fantastic recording. That was fun. That was a fun recording. There was a lot of stuff. It was good. There's a tank in there.
Oh, man. Probably one of the best car chases I've seen.
Yes. Yes. But this one here, this one's very special because, one, if you haven't noticed, this is where the title of the show came from. Bond Never Dies is where I got this from for the listeners. And Tomorrow Never Dies was my, at the time, as soon as it's finished, we'll find out if it's still my favorite. And the reason why we have Curtis on here, because I believe this is your favorite Bond
favorite
too.
Bond film.
Yes. And Travis, I think, what was your favorite at the time?
It was Dr. No when we started. But
Okay.
That has slowly been replaced multiple times.
It has been retconned
Yes.
quite a bit.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about this one. And I'm very excited because, since GoldenEye, I was wondering, like, man, is Tomorrow Never Die going to live up to this? Because GoldenEye just left a really good mark in my chest. So I want to know if, like,
Has it aged well? Yeah.
Yeah, it aged
has
really
aged
well.
well.
Yeah. Too bad the game didn't, but but
Shots fired.
But let's start from the beginning where it feels like, are we watching GoldenEye again? Because we're back in the mountains again.
Back in the mountains.
There's missiles.
Right? Bond makes an escape on an airplane again.
Yeah, it's just...
and you know what? They found a way to make it even more exciting than the first time.
Mm-hmm. And I believe it starts out with a camera kind of...
Yeah, MI6 is checking out a black market thing going on where different terrorists are buying weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, it's a weapons bazaar, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's it's on the Russian border. So they're in the mountains. There's snow, and we find out that there's an agent that is out there doing all the field work and setting up cameras for MI6. Well, while they're watching, this admiral is just like, well, let's blow them all up, and we can take out half the world's terrorists in one go.
So fun fact for the listeners, there is a black actor in there that is talking to Bond. Bond's going by the codename of White Knight out there. Fun fact, he actually plays as a cop in Punisher Warzone.
Really?
Yep, as the cop.
He was the special ops leader in Resident Evil as well.
Fun fact. Good job. So the White Knights out there kind of examining stuff, but they didn't want to wait for more information because they saw somebody there that didn't belong there, and in their hand was something very dangerous.
Right. So they identify this guy named Henry Gupta, and he has a box that was stolen from the Americans that can control their satellites, their GPS coordinates and things like that. So this admiral decides, well, let's just go ahead and blow everybody up. And he gives the order, even though Im is like, well, maybe we should wait for more information before
And
we...
Bond's still there. She even says, my man's not finished doing his
Right.
work.
Right.
Right. And so Bond sends back a response, and the guy's like, well, what do you mean? It just looks like an airplane. So we're looking at a picture of an airplane, and this truck moves, and we notice that there's a nuclear weapon attached to this airplane, and if that missile hits that base, or that black market, there's going to be a nuclear explosion.
Like a Michael Bay movie.
So they try to cancel the missile, but it's too out of range, and so it's up to Bond to figure out what to do next. And so he decides, I'm gonna make a distraction by blowing up some gasoline barrels, and then I'm gonna hijack this plane with a nuclear weapon attached to it.
I love that before that he offered to light a guy's cigarette. And then right there, he said the most hypocritic thing to me. Because, wait, did Bond ever smoke before? I thought Bond smokes. Has he ever smoked?
Cigars.
Yeah.
All the time,
Yeah, he said his
yeah.
one-liner knocking out that guy is like, that's bad for your health or something like
Such
that.
a filthy habit or something.
Yeah, such a filthy habit. I'm like,
Well,
yeah,
as a cigar smoker, I will say it's not nearly as bad as cigarettes.
okay.
Because cigar smokers don't feel the need to be out in the cold to have a cigar. If it's too cold, we just don't have one.
That and you guys don't really inhale.
Right, that's true too.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm also biased because I'm a cigar smoker.
So he does distraction, he gets on the plane, and he's flying off. But one thing that he forgot is he knocked out one of the pilots that was in the back of that jet.
Well, right.
He knocks him out. He just didn't expect him to wake up
Exactly.
so soon.
Right.
Exactly.
And so Bond takes this jet to the end of this runway, turns around, and takes off right as that missile hits everything. So he flies through the explosion and then is being tracked by another fighter jet. Mm-hmm. And as that is happening, the co-pilot wakes up and starts choking him. So he's got a plane that's firing rockets at him and shooting at him. He's got a guy who's trying to strangle him. And it's just like, man, how much worse could this get?
And so he managed to somehow kind of dodge one of the big mountains, and the other pilot kind of lost track of him, and he ended up being right under him, still being choked out almost. And then he pulls out he managed to press a button to eject that seat up, and he managed to ram right into the top one and blow up. And he calls in, he says, "This is James Bond, I'm good," and we go right into our intro,
which is
this is amazing.
I
intro.
really liked this intro with the X-ray of the weapons.
They
and
definitely
the girls,
upgraded.
And
The visuals were great. Well, okay, that's unfair to say. Every Bond opening has pretty good visuals, but this one was pretty to look at.
Some of the old ones were okay because you felt like the girls were more popular than the visual they were trying to do here.
Yeah.
I think it did a little bit more work. I think this was better than GoldenEye's intro.
Mm-hmm.
right. The only thing that was odd to me was like the circuit board computer lady.
I like that.
But
it's so weird. That's what I liked about it.
I just don't know how it fits in.
Oh, because of the media and technology stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's-
okay, I see
that's
that.
the reason why. But no, I just thought it was fun. I like this because it just felt very, test it out, see what people think of it. It's very trial, just taking a chance to see what it is. And I liked it because girls flying, you had weapons flying. The guns, like you say, was X-ray with the bullet shooting out. With the girls or in the bullet themselves.
Yeah. I even like there's one scene where you see the smoke rising up out of the barrels, and the smoke will form a female silhouette and then kind of disappear back into smoke.
Yes.
And I thought that was really cool.
So what do we think the song by Sheryl Crow? I actually really like the song too.
Yes.
I thought the song fitted really well.
I've actually been singing it in my head since I heard it.
Yeah.
So it's really catchy.
Yeah, I really like right when she breaks down in the song, you could tell the visuals are breaking down with her. The visuals are going matching with her, the way she's singing, and I thought they did a really good job with the great horns playing halfway in there. It's probably this and the song is probably almost in my top 5 right now as I speak. It's my favorite Bond openings and songs. I thought it did a really good job, and I think we have that theory: if you really like the song, you might end up really liking
the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Travis, I think you like this too because the fact they're kind of matching what the movie's about. This is about technology. and stuff like that. So it kind of matches a little bit more compared to like sometimes they just throw on a light show and it has nothing to do where it's going.
It's definitely better than just the laser light going across like a body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I just like the woman jumping off the diamond into space, and then like
Going through the web.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just awesome.
and then that's where it ends, and the movie picks up.
Right.
You know,
Awesome.
so
Okay, awesome. So let's go right into
So we're in the South China Sea.
once again.
Yes. And there's a British, I don't know if it's a destroyer or reconnaissance, but it's the HMS Devonshire. And 2 MiG fighter jets from China fly overhead, which puts the ship on high alert.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chinese are trying to tell them that they're getting too close to China, but the British are thinking that they're in international waters.
Emphatically saying, "Hey, we're gonna hold course, and we're gonna shoot. We will respond back if you fire upon us." And it's this whole. It's saber rattling times 10. It is not good. Just think about the real life aspect of this. Like, oh shit.
Right. Right.
So the British are just verifying that they're in the right place. You know, they don't understand why the Chinese would be doing that. They know that they're not being attacked, so they're just kind of holding course and doing what they believe is right. And then it turns out that there's another ship in the waters with the Devonshire, and that ship is a stealth ship. And the guys on that ship are going to try and make it seem like the British are firing on the Chinese and that the Chinese have fired on the British. And we find out that the guy behind everything is a newspaper tycoon named Elliot Carver, and he's writing the headlines as everything is happening.
You think he bought that ship from the Stromberg catalog?
I don't think so.
It kind of reminds me of Stromberg stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was like, it looks like part of it.
Yeah, his water base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, that's pretty much it. They launched this torpedo at the British ship, which has like mining drills.
Yes.
That is a unique missile.
Right, and it like hits the ship and then like
Just mines through it.
right.
It just makes the hole where there's no plug in it. And I love too the British captain's like, brace for impact, and it hits and it's like, where's the explosion like that?
Right. Right.
But what's also interesting is as the ship floods with water, they're controlling this torpedo,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
guiding it to where they want it to go through the ship. So like they're like, oh, okay, go, we're through, go up to the engine bay or wherever else.
To do the most damage.
And you're just like, man, what are they looking for? Or what are they trying to do? And then as people are abandoning ship, they launch a missile at the Chinese MiGs and blow one up. And as that's happening, Carver is literally writing
the headline.
the headline on the newspaper before it's even reported.
Hence why it's called Tomorrow Never Dies, because he's basically going to be talking about something that's going to happen the next day.
Oh,
of course, by going pre-ahead.
And the name of his paper.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow
Yeah.
is the name of his paper.
Yeah. So right after he was finishing up, Grant's apprentice from Russia with Love, he he comes down and he just finished the job, killing all these survivors. And Carver finishes off saying that it was the I believe the Chinese that killed all of them.
Yes.
That just now slowly trying to get this set up, because he was talking to
And
like,
they
all
even
the
use
media people too.
the right ammunition too. Like he's like use the certain
Right.
ammunition.
He's like, tell me how many survivors there were.
Yeah.
And then he's like, make sure you use the right ammunition. And so it makes it look like the Chinese shot at the survivors that were in the water.
Yeah. Now, my question is what is that red device that they have? They put in this red little
So
case.
it turns out that Gupta survived the attack at the black market, and he actually got that device that MI6 was worried about, and moved the satellite image to make the Brits believe that they were in international waters, when in reality they were getting close to China.
Okay. And so from there, as he's like finishing off,
Well, I think this next scene is kind of important too, because it kind of demonstrates, one, how evil Carver is, but that his ambition knows no bounds. Because he's in a room talking to
These other
agencies,
heads,
and he's giving them commands, and one of the commands is tell the president to sign the order on lowering the cost on cable television, or we're going to release the pictures of him with the cheerleader. and then he tells the guy that once he's signed it, go ahead and release the pictures anyway.
Yeah.
And the guy says, "Oh, absolutely, consider him done." So not only is he manipulating politics and manipulating headlines, but this is going to be when he gets the news back that everything is done. He tells all of his 8 news agencies that we're going global, and the global story we're going with is this British ship attacked by Chinese fighter jets.
Yeah, it almost feels like that his goal is to be the most important person on Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So anything you hear about is coming from him. It's almost like the big brother watching you kind of thing, right?
Well, and it's pretty crazy how relevant it is to current times with the quote unquote fake news. And
go in a little bit of that for a second.
So news agencies now are pretty much entertainment. And so they're trying to get ratings, and they're all competing with trying to be the first to tell a story, to the point that they've been wrong multiple times and had to admit they were wrong or double down and refuse to admit they were wrong. Right? So here we are. This is what, 1997 or 98?
98, yeah.
Yeah.
And the bad guy is literally using headlines to manipulate the world.
And making his own news.
Right. So now it's crazy to the point, because when this movie first came out, it got a lot of mixed reviews, but now people are rewatching it, and it almost feels like it's a little bit ahead of its time. So now people are appreciating this movie more than it was before, and that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
What else is crazy, too, is once again, they're trying to contact Bond, and Bond decided to, visit a college for some reason.
Well, he's at Oxford University working up his French lessons with the French teacher in bed.
That guy knows like all the languages. But he gets a call from
Well, it seems like he's got a
Mrs.
lot of
Moneypenny.
inspiration to learn those languages.
Yes. But now we get the next Moneypenny of this Bond movie, because the one is the one before different?
It's the same one from
It's the same
before.
one. Okay,
It's the same one.
Okay, she looks totally different.
I think she has
the
shorter
haircut,
hair.
too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good for them. I like them to at least give her 2 years before changing them out. And so,
But basically, Moneypenny calls Bond and says that they're sending a fleet to the South China Sea, and that M wants him at MI6
Immediately.
Right. And so Bond arrives at MI6, and right before he gets there, or right before he walks in, M and the Admiral from the beginning are trying to are arguing about what the best course of action is.
M got it in. She got a good line in there. I forgot what it was, but woo.
Well, the Admiral told her that sometimes I don't think you have balls for this job.
Yeah.
And she says the benefit of that is they don't take over my thinking or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't have to
man,
think with them.
everybody's getting a good line.
Yeah. Yeah. So we find out that what is it?
What you got here?
So M is begging for more time before you guys
there you
go
go.
to war, and I can't remember the poor guy in the middle. He's like, okay, you know what? Stop arguing. You have 48 hours, M, to get down to this.
Because he's finding out how, he's trying to hear both sides, and then he's trying to come to the decision what to do, because he's talking about they're already sending them out.
Well,
he's going to send them out, and he said, well, how? He said, does anybody know about it? And he said, well, it's already been leaked.
Right.
About information, and that's where he's like, okay, we got to send them out now. You have 48 hours to investigate this before they come. So now they're pressed for time. Basically, they have 2 days.
Right. Carver's newspaper has already printed it.
Yes.
And Bond shows up with it, and they're like, how does he already have the information when it hasn't been leaked?
Yes.
And so M and Bond are riding in her car, and M asks Bond if he knows anything about Carver, and he kind of gives us a quick synopsis that he does have the power to topple governments with his newspapers, and that he's getting ready to launch a satellite. Well, M says that they notice a GPS signal coming from one of his offices. Right.
Or stations, yeah.
Oh, satellites. I'm
Satellites,
sorry. So one of
yeah.
their satellites. And she's sending Bond to Hamburg to a party celebrating the launch of this new satellite.
Party / like a presentation talking about like his new big thing he's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he's going to go investigate.
Event.
And
That's the word I was looking for. Event. Yeah.
she encourages him to use his past relationship with Carver's wife,
That he
Paris
bonded.
Carver.
who is named Paris.
That he bonded.
And she says to pump him for information, and Moneypenny says, it's up to you to decide how many pumps it's going to take.
So many good stuff in here.
So many good lines. It's very quotable.
Now, I will say this, that this woman that he will be meeting up soon, they have a little bit of a pass, a very short pass, and we'll tell you why. Just FYI for the listeners, she is not from any past Bond movies. I try to like kind of look to see, hey, maybe her name got mentioned somewhere. So sadly enough, she's nowhere to be found, because that would have been a nice little full circle kind of thing.
Sure.
Because I think so far in GoldenEye, the wife have not been talked about in this Pierce Brosnan session, right? That has he been married?
No.
Yeah. So okay, that's
It
why.
doesn't allude back.
No.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So he is now heading to basically what you say is this like the airport?
Yeah, he's in the airport, and he buys a newspaper talking about what happened in the South China Sea, and he speaks to this Avis rep to get a car, and Q shows up, and Q starts asking him funny questions about insurance, like, are you going to need property damage? Are you going to need full coverage on your vehicle? That kind of stuff. And of course, Bond's like, yes.
Oh, most certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Q is wearing an Avis jacket and
Like an employee, yeah.
yeah, and takes him out to it's like a warehouse.
It's a hangar
or
almost.
hangar?
Yeah, it's a hangar.
And it's that time again. It is time for
The Q branch.
All right, Travis, take us away. What do we got in this car?
All right. So Q brings Bond a BMW 750 with rockets and state-of-the-art technology GPS. Like, how crazy is it now that every car pretty much has GPS
now?
Yes.
You know?
And what's crazier, there's a cheetah like right beside that car in a cage. Did you guys notice that?
No, I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that. Yeah. I should check it right there.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah. There's like,
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. Right.
So on top of the car, Q gives him a cell phone and explains to him that the listening device is in the top and the speaking device is in the bottom.
Oh, is that how it works all these years? I don't know. Just personal. Brosnan is so classy in this role. And I think my theory is it takes the second film for each actor, even Connery, to fit in that role.
Yeah.
This is that glove role for Brosnan.
Okay.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, no, you're good.
No, you're right.
good. You're good.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Like I said,
It's-
quotable movie.
Yeah. Except for Roger Moore, it took his third one to get going.
So in the cell phone, there's also a taser and a fingerprint scanner.
Oh, and the lockpick is the antenna.
Right.
The antenna is this universal lockpick.
Which it isn't shown here, which is really weird.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, that what got me. I was like, huh.
And he
Q kept it to himself, huh?
And there isn't a watch that he's given either.
No.
Like no special watch at this time.
He haven't had a cool watch in a cool minute, actually.
He had a watch in the last one that did the remote mines, and
That's
then,
right. That's right. I was so foggy with the tank. Sorry, that tank just took over my mind.
But the coolest part about this cell phone is it opens up and it's got this pad that can remote control the BMW.
That's so cool.
And so Q tries to like demonstrate it, and he like bunny hops it, like goes forward a little bit and then stops, goes forward a little bit and then stops. And Bond's like, well, let me try. And Bond like pulls it out, and he's doing donuts and you know, brings it back and stops it Batman style, 89 Batman style.
And if you
like,
watch really close,
inches before.
And if you watch really closely, there's a guy back there working on the plane. He's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, he's like talking.
All right, go on. I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. That's it.
So
I
okay.
almost saw suicide today at work.
So before,
Right.
so before we move on, let's talk about overall all the gadgets. Now, you know, some of the previous Bond gadgets they've been talked about, but they don't really get utilized very well in this one. Just by these, do they sound cool to you, or there was some like, they're okay? Well, do you like the car actually first?
So there's actually more to the car that we don't know about yet.
Yes.
And I mean, he's gone from Aston Martin to BMW, which in the last film he had that 2-seater, which didn't do anything.
That had no screen time at
right.
all.
Like there
and
were
it was
like
shown to him, wasn't it?
right.
Yeah.
Like, it had a parachute in the back. He talked about it having rockets.
Yes.
And
Yep.
we didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
So I think this time around they were like, all right, we got to do something.
I think they got some feedback like, why did you talk about the car and didn't do nothing?
This is almost we are so sorry about the last time, guys. But we gave you a tank. Oh, okay. Here's the car.
right.
I do like the fact that this is a movie based on technology, so I like the fact that they gave Bond a cell phone to go with that instead of like something else. Because most movies they'll give him a device, but it doesn't really, to me, sometimes doesn't fit what they were trying to do in that time. So I'm glad
it was an all-in-one. This which
Yeah.
was cool.
Yeah, everything was really, really technology that fit the theme of this. So I'm really glad they kind of really step into that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so, okay, so it's time to go to the party. A nice party.
Yep. And like, it's really weird is like Carver is just talking about himself, like basically bragging that he can manipulate any situation with his headlines. And that he would do it on the whim, even to somebody who refused to pay him on a bet they had. He would destroy people.
That's scary.
You know, and like almost immediately, like we never even see Bond walk into the building.
No.
We just see like his car out front, and then the next scene is he's being introduced to Carver as a banker.
Yeah. And so from there, they have a little conversation, but it gets interrupted by our Bond girl that just walked in, Wai Lin. And she distracts Carver, and then from a distance, Bond got distracted by this other girl that is actually his wife named Paris.
Right.
And so they went up there and chat while Wynn and Carver talk, but they just talk about technology crap. But we're gonna go back up there. This is more important apparently because
right. So Lynn is claiming to be from a newspaper. Where they won't let Carver in. Like, he doesn't sell any newspapers at all in China. So this is really a ploy, like, overall arching.
Yeah.
So that he can dominate the news media in China.
But is it more important to get slapped in the face?
Well, I mean, we'll find out. So Lynn is claiming to be from a news agency, and Carver is telling her that he'll put her in a news desk and all this stuff. And then, yes, it cuts to Paris and Bond, and Paris greets Bond with a slap to the face. And talks about, you said you'll be right back, and never came back.
Such a Bond move. Amazing. We need to do a montage of, like, every time he walks out, after, like, with a girl, he just walks out.
Yep.
And then followed by the slap at the end of this whole thing and everything like that. But it brought back a couple of memories that they have, and you could tell right on the spot that Paris has still... It was a shock to see him, but at the same time, it did bring back memories. Is that a newspaper jacket? Okay, anyways. And so from there, you could tell she, like, I still got a little bit of feelings about you.
Sure, they quit back and forth. And she asks if he sleeps with a gun under the pillow.
Do you still sleep with a gun under your pillow?
Yeah.
Right. And while this conversation is happening, Gupta is actually spying on Bond. And Carver notices Bond talking to his wife, and immediately goes to meet them with Lynn.
Yeah. And then from there, I guess they have a bit of a conversation, talking about what was it they were talking about? They were basically talking about what their history was around each other, and he can tell that you guys are not telling me everything.
Right.
You guys are hiding something. And so from there, we get to one of our favorite parts where Bond just gets straight to the point about what's your business like,
Well, he starts going after Carver, asking him about his satellites.
Yes. And yeah, he's literally spells out the plot of like, with your satellites, you can do this, and you could even maybe take 2 ships and manipulate them into thinking something. And the Carver's like, my gosh, you have a very vivid imagination for a banker. And he's just, I'm just lost at sea in thought or something, just floating adrift.
You could tell the moment when he asked him, he's like, his face was like, huh, all right, okay. And then when he said the next line, he's like, mother.
Yeah.
This Bond, the Brosnan Bond and the Connery Bond had no shame of come at me, bro.
Right. You can definitely see that from the Goldfinger.
When gosh.
Connery and Goldfinger. This is kind of a bit of that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does Carver do? Well, he sends his guys out after him to kind of, get him
chat, to friendly,
make him feel more welcome at this event.
Well, he tells Stamper that he's got a banker that needs his assistance, and so 2 henchmen come to Bond and say, "Oh, you have an urgent call right this way." And Bond even sits there for a second. He's like, "Yeah, all right,
sure, guys."
An urgent call.
It's almost he should have looked at like the break the fourth wall and looked at the screen like,
right.
I do want to point out. Carver, Mrs. Carver Paris tells the husband, "Oh, I knew him from this time and this time," and they're walking away from Bond, and she's like, "So how exactly do you know him?" And her story changed very slightly, and he's like, "Oh, you're a terrible liar."
Yeah.
And,
oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. Because
Wow.
like every time he asked her, she would. It's not a huge.
it's not a huge, but it changed.
Yeah, just a little bit, and you could tell that she doesn't really look at him too when he says that stuff. She's trying to like kind of get away from him. Mm-hmm. So So that was really interesting. So in the room where Bond is having his
in the recording room,
little talk and everything like that. Bond's getting, beat up and everything, and then right when the opportunity came, he got the upper hand, and he decided to use almost every object in the room to fight while this other guy in the other room is watching the event that Carver is presenting, and he can't hear anything in the other room.
Because it's soundproof, Mr. Bond. No one can hear you scream.
Right. So, there's and I swear, in this scene, I didn't even see it before when he started grabbing stuff. Like, wait, that was in there?
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah,
cello.
Like he hits one guy with the cello. No,
hits
it's
them
funny.
with the double bass. Yeah.
We have the perspective of another security guard who's looked over one time but is watching the presentation. So we're looking past the security guard into this soundproof room, and we're just watching Bond pummel these guys with instruments. And the funniest one has got to be that cello. He just picks it up and just slams it onto this guy's head, and then they bust through the glass, and Bond stops everybody and goes over to the electrical room and cuts the feed. So Carver is giving an international speech.
Yes.
And he gets his feed cut by Bond, which completely just kills his ego. Mm-hmm.
He fires the woman, the promoter.
Yeah.
She didn't deserve that. It was probably her first event. She didn't deserve that. And so from there, they realize that Bond escaped, yada, yada. And we go right into the next.
It's kind of interesting, actually.
What you got?
What happens next? Because it goes back and forth between Bond in his hotel room and then Carver at his office. And he is mad that he got cut off. And he is watching other news agencies kind of poke fun at him, And so Paris is trying to calm him down, but he's mad. At the same time, Bond is in the Atlantic Hotel, and he's having vodka shots, and he immediately puts the suppressor on his PPK, and he sets it down behind the bottle, and he's sitting in a chair watching the door. He's waiting for someone to come for him. Can
I say 2 things? One is I like the part where Carver is really pissed because you could tell right there he doesn't like anyone. One, you could tell he don't like anybody smarter him or outsmart him. So he has such an ego.
Yeah.
And personally, I don't know why. I love that scene where Bond is sitting there having a drink and just loading up his gun. I don't know. It's very Bond.
Well,
Yes.
it reminds me of Dr. No,
Yeah.
where Sean Connery is in that hut and he's waiting, and he's got that gun, and he shoots that guy as soon as he comes to the door, and then immediately twists and pulls the suppressor off.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's very much reminiscent of that.
It has to be.
With Brosnan, my biggest complaints with Dalton was he was too serious.
Oh, so you didn't like the serious Dalton?
I did not like the serious Dalton. Brosnan, he took the intensity of Connery and just a pinch of more.
He seems
At
like he's a
times.
well-balanced to you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm done.
No, because like you can actually tell you the truth.
That's why you're here.
Right. Yeah. If you really think about it, Curtis, you can feel it feels like a little bit of everything because he has a little bit of Roger Moore in there
Yes.
too.
And that's what I mean,
those
like-
one-liners is the Roger Moore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But like straight to the point and stuff, that's such a Connery thing and a Dalton thing too.
Yes.
Except Bond is, the Connery's a little bit smoother with it, and Dalton's just straight to the point.
Yeah, Dalton was more intense.
Yeah.
Connery had a swag about it. He
Yeah.
had a swag in his step about it, and it was suave too.
Yeah. So good job for getting Brosnan to kind of get that good balance of everything.
Well, that makes me wonder, because before he did James Bond, I want to say the first time I actually saw Pierce Brosnan was in Mrs.
I
Doubtfire.
was about to say
That's
that.
right.
So he went from being in a comedy and being the butt of a lot of jokes to becoming James Bond, which is an iconic British role, and he's a British actor. And so I wonder now if maybe he did what we're doing and just kind of took notes and it tried to make his Bond a little bit
The
of
good of each.
right.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but do you feel also it kind of gives you that Michael Keaton kind of filler because it went from like Mr. Mom to Batman? How like, I don't know if he can do this role, and then when he did it, it was kind of like, wow, he did pretty good.
You know,
I would say almost, but he was slotted to be Bond back in the 80s before Remington Steele.
That's right.
Really?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why Dalton's actually choice number 2 because of the Remington Steele contract. He wasn't able to do it. He couldn't get out of his contract to do this. So, see, and that's where we were going before, talking about like certain actors are not getting picked at the beginning, but you see them later in the series because they get put somewhere else. So it's very interesting. So, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So,
Going back
To the hotel.
I think he waited long enough. I think.
He's waiting for someone to show up, and it's Paris. And it's interesting because we get a glimpse of he didn't know who was going to show up.
Yes.
Because he had his hand on the PPK as soon as he heard the door, and then when he saw it was Paris, he smiled and moved his hand to the vodka.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So he knew someone was going to come. He just didn't know who.
Uh-huh.
And so Paris pretty much says or tells him that Carver's onto him, and he knows something's up.
I like that conversation too because at the point where like you could tell there were some feelings there, and Bond already questioned like, why did you marry him? And it felt like she's not even sure. She did it. I don't know, just because she just wants somebody to be with, not so much that he loves.
It sounded like a rebound.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause she flat out says, because he told me he loved me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is what something Bond would never say.
Yeah.
So it's like he's like, well, it's more like a slap to the face of, you weren't ever going to say it, so why do you care?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The GoldenEye as well, you learn things about Bond's past. I don't really recall any event in the older movies.
Yeah.
Because, so in GoldenEye, you learn that from 006 saying, your parents had the joy of dying in this incident. My parents died in this way.
Yeah.
In this movie, you have an old flame come back in his life.
Right.
It just seemed like Bond was more of an empty slate in certain eras. This was a much more personalized, more written out Bond.
Yeah, I feel like that this Pierce Brosnan got cut off where the Dalton is because Dalton even got the Roger Moore and the Connery stuff because being married and all this stuff. But here with the GoldenEye, we haven't heard anything from anywhere in the past.
Yeah.
Like you would think in this movie, if he was married, he would have probably said, "Yeah, I was married once." But he acted like he'd never been married before when he finds that out. So
That's an interesting observation.
yeah.
Like I didn't even
because
grasp that.
the other Bonds just seem very here and now. What's happening now? This is kind of like in the past, like just one thing. It's such a throwaway line too, but it's like if you remember it, it's like, that's new.
Yeah. And so from there, after they finish bonding it.
Well, actually, while they're bonding it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Carver goes and talks to Gupta.
Oh, yeah.
And Gupta...
What have you found out about Mr. Bond?
Gupta says that his paperwork is too perfect.
What?
Like everything about Bond is too in line.
Dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, what do you think? Oh, he's the government or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He's too perfect a human being for him to be anything but, you know. And so Carver asks him. He goes, "Well, do you think Paris knows about him being a spy?" And he goes. It gave that look of, "I'm not going to be the one to tell you this." He's like, "But if you turn down all the noise, it's amazing what you can hear."
I wish he was more excited for that. Like, well, actually.
And
Yes.
and he just plays over and over the line, "Do you still sleep with a gun under your pillow?" And so Carver, like at that moment, is just like, "I am done with Paris."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
Right.
Give the good
yeah,
doctor a
right.
call.
And so he automatically knows, like, he's probably bonding her right now.
Right.
And so speaking of that, they finished bonding it, and
Paris actually tells him about a secret laboratory on the top floor of his building.
Yes. And then that's probably the last time we saw her for now, as Bond went to go investigate the place that she asked for. And this is where we get to see Bond kind of sneak onto the top of this building, and he makes his way inside through actually, you know what? I want to take a break here. Okay. I want to take a break here for a minute. Because I think the next part we're going to talk about gets really juicy, because it from here is just ongoing and it doesn't stop. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about why he was in that building and where does it lead him to.
That's right.
We'll be right back. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode as part of the In-Game Boss program, a network of gaming and other variety shows. And remember, you can find all these shows on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and Podbean. All you have to do is just follow and subscribe and enjoy all our other variety shows, like the In-Game Boss podcast, When Jeremy Met Nam and Finally Do a Movie podcast, Bond Never Dies, In the Cabinet Sessions. So thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of the show. Welcome back to Bond Never Dies, part 2 of our conversation. I'm your agent, Jeremy Evans, along with Travis Hanna. And our third agent joining us, Curtis Sism. How are you?
Doing well.
Are you enjoying the ride so far?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. So, we are now going to be sneaking into a newspaper building.
Or a secret base. Or a secret laboratory in a newspaper building.
Yes. And Bond is running on top of the roof, trying to figure out to investigate. And he finally gets to use his gadgets for the first time. He uses a phone to kind of open the...
Right. Something that we discussed earlier but didn't see Q show him was this lock.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if he
it's like a lock pick.
Right. They kept secrets from us. So he made it down, and he waited for some people to leave this room where it looks kind of suspicious. And he ended up opening the door with the taser off the bottom of his gun to sneak in. But before that, they were noticing a satellite that was like right by close to the door. It seemed like an old satellite they used to have or something.
Well, it's a model.
Is it a prototype? Or?
Well, it's the one that they were celebrating the launch of.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And so they're like, "What do we do with the satellite?" And he's telling them where he wants it, and that he's going to be gone for a week or two. You know, and basically, that's leading up to he's going to be on the stealth boat, you know. So Bond uses the taser function on his cell phone to kind of short circuit the card reader.
Yes.
To get into the secret lab. And so he's going through drawers and he's looking around through stuff, and he goes to all the obvious places. And it's kind of funny because he has time to really think about where they could hide something.
What, did they go on a lunch break?
Right, like he literally is in a chair,
spinning,
thinking, "Oh, if
rubbing his chin."
It had to be at least 30 minutes. That had to be at least 30 minutes of him sitting and thinking.
But he's like, if I were a bad guy and I had a device for satellites, where would I hide that?
How about I look at this thing that stands out so much in the room?
Right.
The centerpiece of your office.
Right.
Yeah.
So he moves this picture, and it turns out to be a safe, and he uses his fingerprint scanner to scan the fingerprint because that was
Gupta's
last
safe, yeah.
used, and uses the cell phone screen to activate it, and opens the safe, and he finds the GPS device. And as he's leaving, I don't understand this part.
I don't understand why there was cocaine in there. Is he a drug dealer too?
I think they were just trying
I
to
think
show
it's
that
recreational.
they were bad guys, and bad guys do bad drugs.
Okay, go on.
But I don't understand this part. Bond was on his way out, and he heard someone picking a lock. And instead of just leaving, he went to the door and was gonna try and capture the person breaking in.
It most seemed like he didn't think he was going to get away, but he had so much time.
Right, I'm like, dude, you literally were just sitting in a chair thinking about where you would hide stuff if you were a bad guy, and instead of getting the hell out of there, you're like, no, I'm gonna.
What's that sound? I'm gonna go check it out.
Right, right. So it turns into this huge gunfight scene where Bond is trying to escape.
Oh, did we say who was at the door?
Oh, I'm sorry, Wai Lin.
Okay.
Wai Lin was at the. Was breaking
She
in.
was doing the same thing Bond was trying to do.
Right, and as soon as she opens the door, an alarm sounds.
Yeah.
So it turns into this huge gunfight scene, and all the bad guys are going after just Bond for some reason.
Yeah, right?
And Wai Lin has a grappling hook bracelet she shoots, and it goes into this pillar, and she hooks it onto her belt. And Bond's being shot at, and as he's leaving the room, he sees her walking.
Just waves at him.
Walking
His
down
face
this
was
pillar.
priceless. Like, seriously?
Right. So clearly they have their own Q branch in China.
Yes.
And clearly they don't care about Chinese women in this office because they're all just fighting Bond. And then, I have to stop and think because the stealth ship or stealth boat is full of guys that are completely okay with starting a war.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The security guards in this newspaper company are completely okay with starting a war. It's like, where does Carver find people that are just forget everything? Yeah, let's start wars. And you need me to be working in a newspaper? Okay, fine.
I'm just working my 9 to 5 to try to pay my
benefits
mortgage.
Are really good, especially his dental.
They've got to be.
It got to be because, there's some teeth that are going to be breaking in this.
Mm-hmm.
And, I especially life insurance because why? Why, Travis? There's a fight scene that happens on top of this printer machine and whatnot, and security guard is at it, and then...
Which is, and even this scene is kind of funny because he kicks this guy off and he falls through the newspaper, and then we see a newspaper coming out with blood on it.
Yeah.
But then it cuts back and the blood newspaper is gone.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But you see the guy in the hole, and he goes, "Oh, they'll print anything these days." So we're led to believe the guy was crushed, and his blood is being smeared all over the paper. But then it's retconned immediately.
PG-13.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, wait, what?
I'm actually surprised why he thought it was a good idea to jump into that. He saw that security guy, should I jump on this printer and fight him off, or should I wait till he gets off? Because apparently, it has to come to an end. I can meet him on the other side. I work here. But, oh well. Anyways, so he managed to, finish printing the press, and he makes it out to another area where it's more a bunch of
It's giant rolls of
newspapers, right?
Or the paper that they're going to use to print newspaper on. And
I like how he's strutting out because
Let me tell you, Curtis.
You know what?
Let me tell you.
No one's shooting at me. I am
Right,
just fine.
right. How confident you have to be all right, those guys knew me, but these guys walking up, they don't know me. And then right there, a gunshot away, okay, they know me.
It's like, did you forget that you're on the run and that there's a heist lockdown on this place?
He was cocky as hell, yeah, I'm Bond. I got it. Oh, crap. But I actually like that. I like the scene where they were shooting and dodging all the newspapers. And stuff like that. And then he managed to roll out because someone leaves the garage door open. And
but at the same time, he was running straight. He was going to continue to hide. And then this forklift with a piece of, a big roll pushes him towards the exit.
Yeah.
He is totally dead or
and then he rolls out, gets in his BMW and drives off. And Carver calls him. And he's like, you have two things that belong to me. You have my red box and my wife in your hotel room. And so Bond is like, oh, crap. What did he do to Paris?
He's like, oh, word?
So he goes back to the hotel, and he locks the red box in his glove box, and he grabs his PPK, and he sets the alarm. But we don't see, like, the car tells him, set the alarm level.
And he never said it.
And they never tell us what it was. So
you think it's on default? If you don't answer, it just goes right into
maybe.
Yeah.
But like he's in the hotel room, and he runs in, and on the news he hears that Paris is dead.
Yeah.
So Carver has already released the information in advance, and while he is kind of mourning her death, he hears that a mysterious man was found dead alongside her, and that's when it clicks that, oh, there's somebody else in the room with me, and that I'm supposed to be the other man.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Who is this mysterious man?
So this mysterious man is Dr. Kaufman, and he is an expert on creating death scenes. Mm. So he's a forensic scientist that is like hired by Carver to set up suicides or stage.
And this is what pissed
murders.
me off. That would have been a great character later on as a villain, and they decide to use this character for this plot. That they could have got somebody else to just stage this whole scene, but they get this cool guy with a cool background. Like his thing is setting up crime scenes and deaths. That's an awesome villain thing.
Now, to be fair, when you're being blackmailed by a newspaper mogul, you'll do about anything.
Yeah. I just wish, man, that is a cool idea for a villain. Yes. And I wish they use him, because I think he looks cool for the part and everything like that. I just think it was a waste for that kind of character for this movie.
Well, but what's kind of neat here is they also set up something for later. Because while Bond is interacting with this guy, Stamper's guys are trying to break into Bond's car with sledgehammers and crowbars, and they can't break the glass. They try to pull the door handles, and they get shocked. And it turns into this kind of embarrassing scene that Kaufman even admits to.
This is awesome. This is awesome.
He gets a phone call from Stamper, and he's like, ask Bond how to get into his car. And Kaufman is just like, this is really embarrassing.
He even covers the phone like, how? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's like, they can't get into your car. They want you to tell them how.
Have you know he's trying to lower his voice too? He's like, they can't get in your car, so
right.
Can you help a brother out?
And so Bond is like, sure, you just got to use my cell phone to unlock it. And Kaufman is like, no, let me do it.
Yeah.
And ends up activating the taser. Mm-hmm. Or,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm going a little too fast here.
Yeah.
Kaufman says, if you don't tell me how, I'm going to have to torture you. And Bond says, are you an expert in that?
Yes, yeah.
And Kaufman says, it's more like a hobby. And what's
the villain?
But it's interesting because this comes into play later, and we find out that Stamper is actually a student of Kaufman on torture.
See?
So this is a great setup for later, because we already know Kaufman's a serious guy, and he's
it's also a funny joke later on too.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's just that's awesome. That's just awesome.
So
you think he's connected to Mr. Kid and Mr. Wheat?
Oh, maybe. that would have been funny if he was their teacher.
So what happened when he dialed the phone, Travis? He got electrocuted, and
he got electrocuted, and Bond goes to shoot him in the head with his own gun.
And there goes your prequel.
Yep.
Waste of an awesome character.
And so Bond escapes out the window, and Stamper is across the street on a roof, and Bond just kind of looks at him, and then just goes around to the side of the building. And this leads into one of the greatest car chases of the movie.
Yes, and if you really go back and cut out some scenes,
also one of the best tracks.
Oh, hey.
You can make a commercial out of this BMW, which I'm surprised it did not exist in theaters. Before watching the Bond, check out this new BMW. Yeah. But no, you're right, Travis. This is probably one of my favorite car chase scenes in the Bond movies. This is just so good. And that's what I like about this movie so far, is because they were just trying new things, trying to be really different. and I think they pulled it off very well.
And I think they're really highlighting the car because of what happened in GoldenEye.
Yes.
And even Bond, while he is controlling this car, is smiling and he's laughing and he's having a great time, even though there's a good possibility he's going to die.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Bond gets the car to burn out, which freaks all the henchmen out around it, and he rolls down the back window and has it drive by, and he jumps in the back seat. And so he's driving around this parking garage, and they're firing grenade launchers at it. They're busting out the windshield, which is interesting because they couldn't do that 10 minutes ago.
I know. I questioned that too. Yeah.
But it turns into a fun scene because Bond is literally just in the back seat the whole time and is watching everything from his phone and like controlling the car, rockets and everything. And it's a great little, I say car chase, but it's not even really a car chase.
It's just a great action.
It's just
scene.
a good action scene.
Yeah. Kudos for the editing. They did a great job of editing this because like you got a little half of like seeing Bond having a good time, concerned every time there's something happening, and then using his special stuff that the car that we didn't know, like
Caltrips.
Yep.
Run flat
Production
tires.
notes. They used 14 models of this car to film this scene.
14.
14 different models due to the damage level.
Wow.
That makes a lot of sense.
And some of them were modified with in the back seat was modified so the driver could sit back there and there was a miniature steering wheel. So in certain scenes where it shows a driverless car, that there's a guy in the back.
Okay.
Wow.
When Bond's in the back seat where they're shooting him driving with the remote phone, there's someone in the front seat. So yeah.
So that's interesting because what they traditionally do is they have a special seat in the driver's seat that matches the rest of the car, and it's got like a clear window.
Oh,
and so the stunt driver will actually be the seat, and they're steering from like they have the steering wheel at the bottom. So when you look into the car, it looks like there's nobody in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But to have it like put into the back of the seat,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm still shocked it was 14 of these things. They're really making up for the last one. Like, okay, we're not going to use this. We're going to do 14 of them.
Right.
We're going to do 14.
So Bond activates Caltrips. I really like where they put the rockets in this one.
Yes.
I totally expected them to be behind the lights. Like
I did not expect that being at the hood.
right.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that was a really neat addition.
The
And
inflated
then-
tires that were, when
the
you roll back,
reinflatable
they just
tires.
fill right back. Yeah, like you said.
Right, and
then
then-
this last part.
The BMW logo like comes up out and it's got like a razor blade or
What
a
a
razor
coincidence.
saw.
Isn't
You know?
that convenient?
And so Bond is being shot at. He's getting to the top floor of this garage, and at one point he bails out and he continues to steer the car, which is being followed by the henchmen, up to the top of the roof, and he drives it off, and it crashes into an Avis car rental store.
Huh.
So it's like he returned it,
Yeah.
just like Q wanted.
Yeah. And so from there, people walked to the crash because that was a good idea. And from there, they went ahead and head to I want to say they head to basically to a Navy, not Army base, right? Did they specify what Army base it is?
It's a U.S. base.
Okay.
In South China. It's a U.S.
Okay,
air
there it
base
is.
on
Okay.
the South China Sea.
Where we get to see good old Wade. Good old Wade. The
Hey
man
there,
that-
Jimbo.
Yeah, the guy that actually took the car from GoldenEye and did not return it back. That's why we never saw any car scenes.
But he was happy.
Yes.
He was very happy.
Yes. Fun fact. It's blue. Okay, so
So Bond has the device and is talking to an expert about it and gets him to check it out, and he determines that the GPS is off, and that through that they can locate where the Devonshire actually went down. And so Bond asks Wade for a favor, and the next scene he's getting ready to do a halo jump, which is a high altitude, low opening landing. So he's gonna basically jump out of a plane and at the last minute open his parachute and then release it, so he lands in the water safely.
So while he's down there looking for the Titanic, he ends up meeting another mysterious person.
Well, he goes through the opening that the torpedo cut, and he's following that path, and he notices that there is a cruise missile missing from the complement of weapons that are stored inside of the ship. And right as he figures that out, Lin shows up and like
Punctures his
air tank because she doesn't realize it's Bond. And at the same time, the Devonshire, where it has settled, is starting to give way. So it's getting ready to fall, and the whole ship tilts, locking them in the weapons room. So they have to abandon their air tanks and escape through the small hatch. And, of course, they end up doing it because we're only partway through the movie. And they see this Vietnamese fishing boat. And wouldn't you know it, Stamper is on the boat waiting for him.
That guy, he knows he's doing his job well.
He's a good henchman.
Yeah, he's coming to the right point.
I want to know,
Uh-huh.
how did Lin know where the Devonshire was?
I don't know.
How does she always know where to show up where Bond is?
I don't know. I guess they talk about it in the helicopter of her mentioning you tend to follow me a lot, and then he reached back and was like, I guess the fun jokes we're locking together.
We have an uncanny attraction to each other.
Right, and they just go they just go line for line for each other.
They're handcuffed together is what Bond is referring to.
Yes. And so they're heading to one of the big offices buildings that Carver owns.
Right, it's in Beijing.
In Beijing.
So he is so cocky that his plan is going to work. That he has built this building, a news building where they won't even let him operate.
Yeah.
And while they're walking through the hallways, Lin recognizes a General Chang.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's trying to figure out what this general is doing with Carver.
Right.
And kind of tries to get him to slip up. And Bond and Lin explain to Carver that, they've been working together for a while, and that they know what he's doing with General Chang. And he just kind of laughs at him and is like, "You don't know anything."
Yeah. Yeah.
But while we're here, let's go ahead and write your obituaries.
So cocky.
Right? Right? Like, he is, I think, he's almost on par with Goldfinger, other than he's not like, I'm going to shoot you right here and then write your obituary.
Right.
His order of operations are a little messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, well, I got to go, but Stamper here, who was a student of Kaufman, is going to torture you for a while, and then,
What was it? An ancient art of keeping them alive to the longest possible second of removing the heart and every vital organ. And Dr. Kaufman set the record. I hope to break it one of these days.
Yeah. I think Bond said a funny line when he walked off, and then while they were testing it up, he's like, use this one last.
I did not catch that.
Yeah. And so,
what's also funny is the headline for China and Great Britain attacking is "The Empire Will Strike Back," and he goes, "It's not even my headline."
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember now. The line he says is that he said, "Oh, I thought watching your show was torture," and that's when he looked at Stanley says, "Use that one last."
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but Bond didn't want to wait because he decided to take action to his own hands, and we get another fight scene where they're handcuffed together, and this was pretty.
It's pretty
awesome. Exciting.
It leads into another great chase scene in this movie. So Bond, they flip a table and they escape with guns, and Lin and Bond make it out to this balcony, and the only thing out there to help them escape is this giant poster of Carver that stretches halfway down his building. So they literally grab the poster and write it, tearing it all the way down, and then they smash through a couple of windows and end up escaping out the front door.
Are they going to take the car or bike? Car or bike?
I love that he's looking for the BMW bike. He's like, no, not this one, this one.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that they're it's not like Bond leading it. They're both really fighting to who wants to take the lead of this scene.
Well, at the same time, they're trying to figure out how is this going to work with us being handcuffed together?
Yes.
You know? And so at one point, she's got the handle with the clutch, and he's got the throttle. And, you know, like they're trying to figure out how to escape and maneuver through the streets of Beijing.
Yes. And actually, to tell you the truth, this is probably, would you say this is probably one of the longest chase scenes in Bond? It's up there.
It's pretty long, and they go through, like, they go from the...
You get a nice tour of this town.
Yeah, like they're on ground level, and then Bond is like, "We'll take the higher road," and they get up on a rooftop.
You know, it's almost like the Spy Who Loved Me. Like they're just throwing everything at them while they're doing that chase scene.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's a helicopter chasing them at one point, and I don't really understand other than the scene that it sets up, but this helicopter like lowers between two buildings looking for them.
Because they do it twice.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And one scene, like, they jump over the blades of the helicopter, which is really neat.
Yes.
You know? And then, like, the helicopter, even, like, this is totally implausible. But the helicopter is using its blades to try and
kill
them, but is, like, going, like,
at a 45-degree angle with its tail up.
Right.
Yeah.
And is like chasing a crowd of people out of this market. So the blades are like chopping everything in sight. And Bond is trying to get away on this motorcycle while these crowds of people are panicking.
Around them, yeah.
You know, essentially. So they turn a corner and get out of there. And the helicopter kind of follows them. And then they, like... Lin is like...
kind of almost hit a dead end.
Right. Lin is like trying to give him a heads up. Bond's trying to figure out where to go. And the helicopter corners them in this alley.
Now, before you continue, what happens here? Because this is the most one of the exciting parts here. I want to say for the listeners, I really enjoy when Wai Lin and Bond are always switching positions while they're driving to get a better understanding. Like, hey, who's behind me? They're switching around to figure that out. I love the fact they keep moving around while they're riding because they're trying to get. I just love that. That was just great teamwork, and I just love it made them more Bond of these characters instead of just like, hey, you sit in the back, I'll do all the work.
Right.
And so let's go to the coolest part of this.
So they take this like ring that has like a cable on it. And they drive the motorcycle straight at the helicopter, which is again doing the 45-degree angle, and is basically, you guys aren't going anywhere. They slide the motorcycle under the blades.
So awesome.
Like, turn the bike sideways and just slide past the helicopter, and then throw the cord up into the tail propeller, and completely destroys the helicopter.
When I saw that in the movie theater, because I saw this in the movie theater when it first came out, I was just blew my... Right there was like, this is my favorite Bond movie. Like, that was the mark right there. I was like, I have never seen a scene like that in any action movie that did something like that at that time.
You had two really intense chase scenes bookended each other.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. So after they completed that, taking the helicopter down, they needed to kind of take a shower because they were sweating. And so
and Lin decides at this point to kind of show that she could have picked those handcuffs a while ago and made this whole thing a little easier.
Yeah.
But, you know,
she was having such a good time.
What would be the fun in that?
Right.
So she picks her handcuffs and handcuffs Bond to the shower head, and she runs off, and Bond like breaks the pipes and tries to follow her, but doesn't quite know where she ran off to. And he's looking around, and he sees this guy signaling to this car full of other guys. And the guy's like, you need to go in there, you need to go in there, you know, kind of thing. And all these four guys get out of this car and go into an apartment. Well, Bond kind of puts two and two together that's where Lin is. So he takes care of the guys on the outside. And by the time he gets in, she's all but stopped one guy, or no, four of these guys, and Bond like kind of finishes off the last guy. And we find out that these are guys sent by General Chang to stop Lin, and that her house, quote unquote, is really like a secret base, and she's got a plethora of weapons and computers and whatnot. So they kind of put two and two together that let's see.
What do you guys think about the fighting scene overall, though? Did you guys like the fighting scene she was doing? I thought it was pretty important to me because it kind of established, make her stand out for a minute. Like,
Yes.
she's just not just a spy. She
She's
actually
not
knows
just
martial
there,
arts.
yeah.
I would have liked to see, because it's Michelle Yeoh. I would have liked to see a little bit more martial arts and not as
Just
much.
so much kicking.
Well, not like knocking people down and things like that, but actual fighting.
Oh, okay. Like the fight, like they actually like go hand to hand for a
Like
minute, then take them
Romano
down
and
instead of
Mono.
just
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Like
Okay.
at least one of the guys, that would have been kind of cool.
She was in a rush.
But overall, it was pretty good.
I do like the throwback knockout from Bond with the cigarette lighter.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
From the
that was so
beginning.
funny.
And it's like, oh man, here you go. Oh, it's not even there. Boom.
Yeah, that was funny. So, we mentioned that we find out that the place they were in, it was like one of her secret,
Right.
hideouts.
And so Bond and Lin are talking, and Lin explains that the government knows that General Chang was stealing stealth technology, and they thought it was going to be a helicopter. And Bond is like, no, it's got to be a boat, because a plane. I'm sorry, it's got to be a boat because a plane would be too obvious. Like they'd be able to see that, whereas a boat could sneak up on another boat. And so they decide that they need to warn both governments, the British and the Chinese, so that they're aware that there's another ship out there that's making it look like they're attacking each other.
Yes.
And so while Lin is doing that, Bond is kind of putting together some weapons for them to take along. And we get
it's
into the Chinese Q branch.
Our Chinese Q branch for this special edition. Curtis, what does she have? What do you remember that she had in there?
In the
what did
hideout?
Bond mess with? He messed with a couple things in there. Do you remember what it was?
There was this dragon statue. I remember he's like put his hand on it. He pulls down on the ear on accident and it turns into this flamethrower. I memorably know he goes right to the handguns and he inspects the handgun, and it's a Walter P99. He actually hit Bond in the Walters.
Yeah.
I noticed a fan that she had. Remember that one, Travis?
Yeah, he
What was it? It's a traditional Asian fan, and if you sling it, it shoots out these
like spikes. Or
Spikes,
something.
Yeah.
with strings on it too. It was really cool.
And then the last thing he grabbed was the watch.
Yes.
Which is kind of funny, because China is known for knocking off name brand things. And
This
so
could be a knockoff too.
So he picks up a watch and goes, "Oh, this looks familiar," and she says, "Oh, we've made some improvements." So it's kind of like not only is it a knockoff, but we made it better.
Yes.
Oh, and something else. There is a trap in the branch. Bond's like, "Oh, you missed one," and she like hits this thing.
Oh yeah.
It takes out a henchman that got back up.
That's right. Yeah. So after they finally got their intel and all this stuff, they start heading towards.
Well, Lin kind of figures out that if it's a stealth boat,
Yes.
the only logical place it could be is Talong Bay, and so
Fun fact: the man with the golden gun, Scaramanga's hideout, is somewhere in there. Just putting it out there.
so
I think this is what I hear.
So Bond and Lin charter a boat that takes them to where the stealth ship or stealth boat could be, and they have just like a little motor raft, and so they spend all day checking each different bay that's in the area, and of course it's the last bay
Of course.
that they look for as it gets dark. And so they kind of sneak onto the stealth boat, and they're going to set bombs up to either try and sink the stealth boat or at least make a big enough explosion that
It shows up.
right, the British fleet and the Chinese fleet can see it on radar. And so while Carver is inside praising himself, he sees Lin on the cameras, and gets mad at a security guard and is like, if you see her, that means Bond is here also. And so he sends Stamper to go and kill Bond and capture Lin. And so he captures Lin, a fight ensues, and Stamper believes he kills Bond.
I love this scene. That was like the most smartest thing I ever seen Bond do so far. Was
right. So Bond stabs this guy who's trying to come through this hatch, and as Stamper is firing, he just lets the body go like Stamper killed him, and he falls right into the ocean. And so Stamper even reports back to Carver that Bond is dead.
Mm-hmm. And so with that, Bond got a chance to kind of sneak around a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And he makes his way, I want to say, where did he make his way to? Let me see.
The main control area, or just right above the captain's.
Yeah. So Bond is still making his way around, but
he while he's looking around, he finds a jar.
Yes.
And he pulls the pin on a grenade and sticks the grenade in the jar so that the handle hasn't released. Mm-hmm. And he puts a
vibrating device,
right? Some kind of frequency emitter that he pulled out of the watch, and he puts it on the glass, and he sets the jar up where it could do the most damage.
Yes.
And goes and kind of gives himself up. Like, hey, I'm still here.
Right.
Well, actually, captures
Gupta.
Right.
Yeah.
And is like, I'm going to, in exchange for Lin, I'll give you your guy.
What is that called? Like, you have something that belongs to me, I have something that belongs to you, and you have
a
like,
hostage
standoff.
situation?
Oh, I thought it was a different name for it. I thought it was like, it's a certain standoff or something. Anyways, go on, I'm sorry.
So, really, Carver is just like, is everything set to go? And
this is the most gangster part.
Gupta's like, yeah. You just push the button. He's like, well, then your contract's over. And he shoots him. And
That's so gangster.
So Carver is bragging. He's like, I always have a plan B. And Bond's like, oh, yeah, me too. And like hits a button on his watch. And it makes the glass jar break and causes the grenade to go off, causing a huge explosion.
Mm-hmm. What was the line? Always have a plan B. It's like, oh, I already have one.
Yeah.
Bond says.
Right.
Now, at the same time, M has brought back the information that Lin had sent out about the stealth ship.
Yes.
And so she's talking to the admiral from the beginning and is saying, we need to warn our fleets that the Chinese are not attacking us, but that there's another ship trying to make it look like they are. So they relay that to the British fleet, who in turn tells the Chinese, we're looking for the ship. And when the explosion happens, they see it on their radar, and they relay that information to the Chinese. And the Chinese say, "We're not going to do anything until they come closer to our continent."
Happy hunting, yeah.
Right. So they're like, "Happy hunting, it's all yours." So the British are all right. We're going to go hunt and destroy this ship because it's trying to start war. And at the same time, Bond and Lin have to escape. So
they're all trying to escape together.
Right. So Carver is trying to continue on with his plan before his ship is blown up because the Chinese still are not for sure. At the same time, Bond and Lin have decided they're going to split up. Bond's going to go after and try to stop the cruise missile.
Yes.
And Lin's going to try and stop the engines from going so the stealth ship is stuck in the water.
Because the stealth ship was much faster than the British cruiser.
Yes.
And they would be out of firing range.
Right. And so Lin ends up shooting the computers, the engine's computers, and it stops the ship. She gets pinned down by a couple of guys with 2 bullets left and manages to shoot these steam vents.
Yes.
Yeah. And stop the 2 guys that are after her.
Yep.
And then Bond is he's in another gunfight. He's fighting all sorts of guys. There's an explosion that happens, and Bond kind of gets pinned for a little bit. At the same time, they're calling an abandoned ship. Carver is just watching everything literally go up in flames, and he is mad. And so Stamper knows where Bond is hiding, and he shoots a grenade right into that area. And right after he does that, Carver says something about I believe Lin is in the engine room. Why don't you go take care of her?
Yeah.
You know, and Bond ends up like getting up, and Carver sneaks up on him, and in the room where they control the torpedo,
Yes.
with the mining blades on it.
From the
Oh
beginning,
yeah, this was really cool.
And
yeah.
Bond's at the control panel of this. Carver doesn't. He's so arrogant. He does not realize that Bond's fiddling with his hands on something until it's too late.
Yeah, man, this movie's rated R. But anyways, so after he gets kind of munched up and everything like that, because like Bond managed to still get one line in and then push him in there. That's how badass Bond is, right? So with that, they thought they were good, but there's one more person left they got to deal with.
Stamper catches Lin and ties her up with chains and lets her go into the ocean. Bond was trying to defuse the cruise missile, and before Lin was dropped, she threw him the primers that they were going to use originally on the bombs on the outside of the ship. And so he sets the primers up so if the rocket goes, they'll detonate the primers, which will detonate the rocket.
Yes.
Or missile. So Bond and Stamper are actually fighting on top of the missile, and Bond ends up releasing the missile so it like falls on Stamper's foot,
Yes.
trapping him so he can't move.
I really like this fight because the GoldenEye fight was good. They were very on the level with each other. Bond is just getting his ass kicked.
Yeah.
And it really makes you, oh my God, they're not going to kill Bond. But he's getting wailed on.
It's one of those
Holy
moments
crap.
that you really thought for a moment like he might not make it. It almost felt like the Goldfinger moment. Like he might not make it.
So let me explain what's going on. He takes a knife from his jacket, stabs him in the bicep. Stamper doesn't let go. Bond punches him square across the face 5 times. Does nothing.
That's that Terminator
Stamper,
status.
and this is while Stamper's foot is crushed. And he is holding on for dear life with this left hand. He's not letting go. Like he's gonna kill Bond, and he realizes, oh, the rocket's about to go. I'm gonna take Bond with me. Man, this guy has balls. Oh, and he got stabbed in the chest. Knife gets pulled out from him, and he's still not letting go. Like Bond, in a fair fight, had no chance against this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very much like Ivan
Almost
Drago.
like the Oddjob fight too.
Oh yes.
He had no chance against Oddjob.
Yeah.
It
was almost the same thing, would you say, with Jaws 2? Like, it was almost he couldn't win against Jaws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
But this guy was just incredibly like pain resistant.
Right?
I don't even think he screamed when his foot caught on fire from the rocket.
No,
like this guy was
right.
tough.
And then we get probably one of the craziest kiss scenes in a Bond film, underwater with explosions in the water. It didn't have to do that, but they were probably breathing air into each other's mouth, probably. And so he managed to like unchain her, and they get back out. And then from there, they're waiting for
the destroyer that ended up destroying the stealth ship is calling out to Bond, and Bond's like, we'll be on leave for a while.
Yep.
Let's stay undercover for a little longer.
You know.
Yeah.
And so that's where the movie ends.
Yeah. And so before we talk about how we feel about everything, Travis, you wanted to mention about a certain person that they dedicate to.
Albert R. Broccoli, who has been the producer since the beginning, died in 1996, which was right after GoldenEye, like a year after GoldenEye was released. So this movie is actually dedicated to him in his memory for his, 30, 40 years of bringing us James Bond. You know, and
what a great way to go out.
Right.
Yes.
And his daughter has taken over from there and has kind of kept it going.
Yeah.
You know,
And
which
good
is
for her.
right?
That's
Which is
excellent.
great.
Yeah. So how do we feel about the movie? Curtis, what do you go first? How do you feel about the movie overall?
This is still my favorite James Bond movie.
Okay.
If you want to know what my second one is Goldfinger.
Okay. So Tomorrow Never Dies, I think it's probably still number 1 for now. We still got more to go, but I want to say it's probably still my favorite. Travis, what about you?
I like this movie a lot. It has now made it into my, I'm going to say top 2.
Okay.
Kind of like what we were talking about. The Brosnan Bond it pulled a lot of elements from the older films too.
Mm-hmm.
I made the odd job joke about the Stamper fight. This also had a nice 2-on-1 fight too in the TV station. You don't really see Bond duet with someone from what I've seen.
Yeah, you really notice it's more. This was probably the most action that you've seen so far in the Bond movies.
Yeah,
because it was action after action. Because I think they wanted to keep it interesting because like the plot of the idea is very light. It was just about just causing war for media. We've seen that before. And you can only live twice. Or the same plot of trying to get two nations to fight against each other. So they needed something to fill in that thing, and those action scenes filled us in.
Now, one thing I do want to point out that we kind of glanced over, and that I thought was a little ridiculous, was at the end when they're doing that whole shootout with Bond.
Yeah,
there's a little tiny rocket launcher inside of the boat that Bond like shoots and destroys a bunch of stuff with.
Yeah,
and it's like, what is the purpose of that little?
Why would they need that in there?
Who left that there?
Yeah.
Right. Like it's only there for Bond to do that.
Yeah. I get that.
And it was just like, why would that? Who put that there?
It was Stampers, guys.
It was Stampers.
Yeah. So, do we feel like that Bond completed his mission? Absolutely. He did it. And what we mean by that is, for the listeners, is did he do it and it felt like he did it, or did the movie or the villains gave him help to complete it? No, I think Bond did a good job handling this himself.
Yes.
Well,
and he had great help doing it.
Right. That's the other thing. I think Michelle Yeoh really, her character, I think, was pivotal.
Yeah.
In helping him get it done, because
you get the sense that he could not have done this alone.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And another great thing is she's a Chinese secret agent. He's a British secret agent, and she makes a joke about controlling powers.
Yeah.
And he makes a joke about her being communist, but in the end, they just laugh it off, and together they're able to get the mission complete.
Yes. And speaking on that, let's talk about the Bond girl, Wai Lin. How did everybody feel about her? It's Travis, you first. How'd she do?
I think she is my favorite Bond girl at this point.
Okay. All right. This movie is really doing well. Yeah. She's up there with me. I think who was up there before her? Was it Mayday, maybe?
It was Mayday. I really like what Mayday was kind of her own character. She wasn't really bossed around. She did her own thing. And then when she got double-crossed, she was like, fuck you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think she did a terrific job. I might be matching with you that for now. I think she is number one. They just did a good job. Getting everybody a shine. I think. Because now we're going to talk about. Oh, Curtis, I'm sorry. What did you think of her?
I liked her a lot. I think she was very well written too, and she was important to the plot. I still consider Paris a Bond girl as well.
Yeah. There's always two.
Too
bad she died.
Yep.
Right, because she actually gave him a pretty big tip about the laboratory.
I will say that if she was going to die, I wish she died maybe in a different way instead of just kind of like look like they just kind of cut her off really quick. Like, you did your job, now we're just going to cut you out, instead of like maybe building up a little bit more where the death could have been more dramatic.
Like maybe Bond comes back and then Kaufman kills her.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't quite
Yeah,
able
let
to
it
save her.
mean something, because they really, it felt like after they remember who they were and have sex and then they kill her, I feel like, well, what was the point of building that up then? You know what I mean? It would have been nice to like make us feel that they meant something. But maybe they were trying to make room for Wai Lin to have more of a bigger part, so that's probably why they did that.
Well, and the other thing about Wai Lin is that character is believable. When she fought guys, she wasn't overpowering them.
No.
It was her skill that was getting the upper hand.
Right.
And it was 4 guys, and she didn't fight them all at once. Like she had to run away and get them kind of separated, and then one-on-one took them out.
Yeah.
So it's not like it is right now in movies where these women are just ultra powerful for some reason. It's believable, and I think
she used her brains. Yeah,
right. That makes it that realism makes it cooler.
Right. Bond villains, man. What can I say about the Bond villains? I'll tell you one thing though. I honestly thought that Carver was okay at the beginning, but when he finally killed somebody, that's where I was like, okay, good, you got your hands dirty. I thought he was going to be that character where he was going to just sit in the back, kind of like a Stromberg, kind of, sit back, let everybody do all the work, and I'll let Jaws do everything for me. But like at the end, he was like, when he killed the computer guy, what's his name? The one that helped him out.
Gupta.
Yeah, he was like, your job is done. Shoot him. Like right there. It was like cool. Like he fired people. He was mad, but like, are you gonna finally get your hands dirty and do something? And he finally did. I was like, okay, now you're a great villain to me, because like I love the idea that you had this plan all built up, because it's kind of almost to this day that it can easily be possible. Most of this movie the story could be possible, and the fact that he actually will get his hands dirty to get his business and this media thing going. He'll do what he has to do. And so what everybody think of Carver.
I like when the villain takes a shot at the hero.
Yeah.
I'm jumping into 89 Batman and Batman Returns. Even the Penguin took a tackle at the Batman.
Yeah.
I like it when the villains. Then you look at Two-Face and Riddler. Did they ever throw a punch at Val Kilmer's Batman?
No.
Do you remember even if they just pointed guns or laughed? And I like when the villains like, I'll do it myself. I'll try to do it myself. And even when he has Bond at gunpoint before he gets Joe to death, I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, because the most best villains are the ones that challenge Bond. Like, if you're gonna shine, I'm gonna outshine you, and then he's gonna try to outshine you. That's where you get that. What about you, Travis?
That was the brilliance of Goldfinger. It's like, do you expect me to talk? No, I expect you to die.
Yeah, right.
Like I don't care if you talk.
Right.
Like I'm gonna kill you now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you there. But also, like, just the ego on this guy.
Oh man.
Like
when his wife is trying to comfort him, he's like, "Not to me. This doesn't happen to me."
Yes.
And it's just that tantrum of, "Whoa, dude."
Yes. And then everybody got to shine. Like at first, I thought Stamper was just gonna be a walking
muscle.
Yeah, walking muscle. Say, hey, get these guys here. But like, they got him a good shine at the end.
Yeah.
And so kudos to waiting for him at the last moment and went out with a bang.
It was a nice build up too. You're just like, okay, they're gonna square off. Is it gonna be in the middle? No, they waited to the very end. That's a good.
Well, and what's also interesting is Stamper kills those survivors in the water like it's nothing.
Right.
And then the rest of the movie, we're not even questioning if he's a bad guy, because he's got other guys doing things while he's just giving commands. Like, we already know he'll kill.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to him in Bond fighting, it's more of a realization of how tough this guy is, because Bond is stabbing and punching, and it's not even affecting him. So it's like, yeah, we know that he's going to kill Bond if he gets that opportunity.
Yeah. And then the last thing is just a quick review of the Q branch. Did the gadgets fulfilled the movie for you?
Okay. They went beyond my expectation.
Okay.
Like, one of my complaints about the Daniel Craig Bonds is all of the gadgets kind of give you an idea of what's going to happen, and usually happen to Bond. So in one movie, only Bond can fire his own gun, which means at some point someone's going to try and shoot him with his own gun.
Yeah.
Right? The defibrillator, Bond's going to not have a heartbeat at some point, right? In this one, it's like you have rockets, you have a taser. How is that going to be used? Right?
And they kept them behind closed doors, because we were surprised. Like, you never talked about this.
You never talked about the tires reinflating.
Yeah.
Right. And the fact that the rockets were like in the roof of the car, the rockets didn't work on that one door.
Yeah.
So he had to rethink that. And then, just like I said earlier, like, the fun he was having driving that car in the back seat made you
have fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Going on gadgets, some of the old films, the gadgets telegraphed what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a big complaint. The phone was almost a jack of all trades in that you need to break into... Like, I think Q Branch does know what he needs to do in some sense, so it's kind of a generic catch-all, which it felt like. It doesn't feel like, you'll definitely be needing this for this specific scene coming up. It just felt like you're equipped for everything right now.
Right.
Okay.
And Q never even said, like, you can use this electric shock to short-circuit something. He just said it was like a high-voltage thing. And Bond's using his imagination, like, I can tase someone, or I can short-circuit this thing.
Yeah. Good job. They did a good job, like, thinking outside the box instead of, like, I'm going to use it for this one purpose, and I'm going to wait for this scene to happen to use it, right?
Right.
Yep.
And then even when even when the taser was used, we knew it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
But up until he said, "Oh, I have to use my phone," we were like, "Oh, how is he gonna get out of this?"
Yeah.
What was it? Alfred Hitchcock was talking about suspense and scene build up. And you have a premise of two guys talking at a table and there's a bomb underneath. And you know that it's supposed to go off at a certain time. Well, it doesn't get interesting until the bomb fails
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
to go off at that time. And that's how you build up a scene, is like that unknown factor.
But what a fantastic movie. What a fantastic episode. But I think we stayed long enough on this mission. I want to thank everybody for coming in to listen to this episode. If this episode felt long, it's actually worth the listen because we had a good time talking about it. It's a fantastic movie. It seems like it's still my favorite. Curtis' still favorite. Travis is debating it.
It's
1 and 2 right now
It's
for
up
it.
there, man. It is up there.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more of the other Bonds, make sure you work your way backwards. Hit back to the Pierce Brosnan, the Timothy Daltons, the Roger Moores, and that we got fantastic episodes. We like to hear you. Is Tomorrow Never Dies your favorite one? Did you think it was lackluster? All you have to do is just email me at theingameoffice@gmail.com. And we're on YouTube, so leave a comment down below and let us know what you like, dislike. Did you like the episode? Did you not? What do you like to see? Which Bond is your favorite? Which Bond pulled it off? Do you think Curtis did a good job? Curtis, thank you so much for making the time to come on.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, man. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, great knowledge and everything. I got to edit some sorries out, but But remember, you can listen to this show and all our other shows as part of the In-Game Boss program, a network of gaming and other variety shows. We have fantastic shows coming soon. I'm glad that we're almost halfway on part 3, but we still have another whole part to go because our goal is to match up at around close when the new Bond movie's coming out. So probably we'll be done by the end of this year, probably, for all of it, and then maybe the announcement for the next Bond movie will come, and that will be our final episode.
We'll see.
But that's not all, because in the future we will do some fun top 5 stuff that we've been working on. If you listen to episode 0, you'll understand what we're talking about here. But remember, you can listen to our shows also on Podbean, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let us know how you feel. We love to hear we like those little, ratings. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel good you're following. Feels good if you subscribe. So you're up to date with all our episodes and stuff like that. Travis, thank you once again for coming to be another agent.
Hey, no problem.
And we will catch you on our next mission.
Ba-da, ba-da.